As affiliate owners, we discovered that using performance data to program our workouts produced far superior results for our members. But it took us 20 hours a week to produce something that we were really proud of in Excel. So that's when we set out to build the technology that we thought could really change the fitness world. Welcome back to another episode of the Yoked podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Welch, CrossFit affiliate owner and founder of Yoked, where we believe success is never achieved alone. This short format interview podcast is designed for coaches and athletes that believe in the age-old adage, together is better. On every episode, we discuss all things between a coach-athlete relationship, from goal setting and making plans to the execution and the accountability of a program. We answer questions like how to use data to improve performance and what you should change about your life to be healthier. My hope is that you will leave these conversations with some new ideas and a greater passion for health and performance. With that in mind, I welcome you to the Yoked podcast. Your days back managing different affiliates, what are some things that you have learned through the many years you've coached CrossFit with just the coach-athlete relationship?
I think on a simple basis that I think was the most impactful that I kept running into. It didn't matter what level of responsibility that I had. Starting off level one and basically paying in order to coach, type thing, which is cool. I went through. I think I went through every single phase. And then some, and then all the way up to managing gyms. Making the big financial decisions, creating programs, all of that. I think the biggest consistency that I had seen was that the one you could honestly tell really quickly, who was bought in emotionally. That means business owners. That means coaches. That means, and then how they were able to mold into something great. The other thing is that I noticed that most people comfortably like to deal in absolutes. They like to say stuff like I can't.
Yep.
And I think that's a safeguard. And so I think if anything I learned was not seeking to ever prove that person wrong, but to prove the idea to be faulty. And if I just could make a crack, then it's a simple process of just opening it up, and then people can really flourish.
Yeah.
And those who really, really wanted to, they would do that.
Yeah. So almost like you were empowering them to do it themselves.
Yeah. It's because I think ultimately if it becomes their idea, you may be the initiator, heck, you may be even the driver, but it's more importantly, it's if they feel like they're a part of their own process. That's the way to go. But and then really start to break down more of this belief system of I can't.
Yeah.
And then really focus on how can I?
Yeah. Well, the thing I appreciate you and that I have admired from afar for the past couple of years is you take this almost passive approach to persuasion, where you allow the athlete to dream freely, come up with their own ideas, and you can kind of have this open communication. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about, let's say you have a new athlete. Walk me through that process.
Anytime we've done that, you can go, and I've tested so many different tactics, right? And I use that loosely. There's nothing wrong with these because it's a way to get feedback, right? It's having a no sweats intro, having them go directly into an elements program, or hey, just kind of throw them to the wolves. We've seen it all. I've experienced it all. I've experienced the horrors and the goods through all that. But I think ultimately there has to be a scenario of open vulnerability. In order for anyone to do that, you have to create something that they know that this person's going to feel comfortable in. You can tell by a mannerism really fast, if they have some self-conscious thing about themselves that they don't want to be seen. So it's probably not a good idea to just throw them in a workout.
Yeah.
Or they will voice concern all the time. It's like, are you listening? Like, I'm worried about getting hurt. Well, then don't start off with a workout. Start off with a discussion.
Yeah.
Right. Play life coach for a moment. And then like, it's really just kind of paying attention to them as an individual, and then having a multitude of approaches that you can try with one goal in mind. And that's earning trust.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing that anyone can do. And I, like you said, I like to take it more of like, it's a less aggressive like approach. And it seems like, hey, I'm more interested in you.
Yep.
Because I mean, how to win friends and influence people, one of the greatest lines, right? It's like, you can earn more friends. And I think it's like, I'm butchering this, but in a week, like learning about them and genuinely caring about them than you can in a whole year trying to tell them about you.
Yep. Totally.
And I think that's something that stuck with me, is like genuinely asking questions of, okay, you're here for some reason. That's very important to note.
Yeah.
The only way I'm going to know is if you're going to trust me. And so
exactly,
getting to know them and creating a really safe zone where they feel like they can express a little bit that crack, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, right?
100%.
You know, I think in the CrossFit community, especially myself, I get caught up in these textbook correcting, you know, typical level 2 or even level 1 stuff. And I forget, hey, step 1 of coaching is establishing and continuing a relationship of trust. So talk to me, Chaco, about maybe some athletes, you don't have to name them, but long-term athletes that you've had for a long time.
Yeah.
How have you been able to yoke yourself with them to help them continue to progress month over month, year over year?
It takes a lot of, so not that long ago, a couple of years ago, like me and my wife were in charge of the community garden. That was the most laboring.
Like the city garden?
Actually, it was a church.
Oh.
There's a church calling, right? So for anybody out there listening, it's just like, it was a responsibility that was given to us, because I'm sure they didn't know what to do with us. I don't know. But they gave us this garden, and it was a lot of tending to. There was a lot of, again, it goes back to creating the environment, you know, of growth, of constant highlighting the good stuff, right? It's not all positive. It's not always just that, but it's also like in setting the expectations really quickly so that there's no miscommunication on that front, you know. And then like if there is a miscommunication, you've created the environment where it can be spoken of. But I really do believe that it's becoming in like an autonomous high performance athlete. It takes a very long time. So as a coach, if you're truly invested in those goals, you're revisiting regularly. You have to make it present and known that that's what you're trying to do. So any chance you get, if someone wants to go to the World Series, heck, you know, I don't know, I think Yasmani Grandal does CrossFit, or and if his coach wants him wants to help him be the best fit for his team, he's going to constantly bring up that emotional trigger. Or she, if it's a female, it's going to bring up that emotional trigger that really drives them.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring up like constant motivation, that reminder. I think my favorite was a gal I worked with for like 3 years. And it was to lose weight. I had to let her know, like right ahead of time, like, you want to achieve something. First of all, we know it's possible if someone else has done it. Hands down. All right. We are very special people, but we're not that special. We're not an anomaly. I'm sorry. I think that you're the wonderful person in the world, but we think we're too unique, where it's like, we are unique in one way or another, but like too unique. Like, I can't lose weight. Sorry. That's not true.
Yeah.
So someone's done it. So let's reverse engineer some ways to think about and find a universal truth that you can resonate with. Why do you want to lose weight? She brought up the fact that like her grandbabies are like her, like pride and joy, and she hates the fact, she dreads the fact that she is unable to move around, right? That was an emotional trigger. Now, I knew boundaries, right? It's like, I'm not just really jabbing into her, but it's like when she was having her weakest moments, I would take her and I'd bring her in front of the mirror and I'd have her talk to herself, it's like something that worked for her, but essentially, and it was about her grandkids.
Yeah.
Like, and I brought it up, made it visual. It's like, hey, let's get visualized your grandkids. Because you'll either quickly find out that either her grandkids are really not her motivation or they are.
Yeah.
And that's powerful because then you can take that aside and we can go deeper in another level, or we can really just continue to focus on that.
Yeah.
And I think that's in essence, you can kind of scale that to wherever you want. There is a reason why someone wants to go to the CrossFit Games. There's a reason why someone wants to set state records for, weightlifting. There's a reason why someone wants to accomplish a Tough Mudder. It represents something.
Yeah.
And if your true coaching is going to figure that out, and then that's going to be something that your main job is to kind of like motivation check, and also continue like moving the needle education specifically designed for your athlete.
Yeah.
You don't have to know everything off the bat, nor experience everything off the bat.
Yeah.
To be able to be a good coach.
Yeah.
You just have to want to know how to do it and then be able to express that to them.
Yeah. The one thing that we firmly believe is we're trying to create this platform where we can accommodate these one-on-one relationships, where in the relationship, I can adapt the program to your specific needs. So based off some things that I'm hearing from you, first to create this relationship of trust, they gotta feel that you're engaged with them, that you want to talk about them, not yourself. And then there's this continual motivation, bringing back maybe their underlying why, and that eventually is going to get them the results. And the results is what's going to drive the long-term relationship that's fruitful and provides the reminiscent opportunities into the future.
Oh, absolutely.
So talk to me, Chaco, about from a programming perspective, some things that you've learned over the years, common faults that you have made, or when you go visit these other boxes. I know you even do some consulting with some gyms.
Yeah.
Some programming issues with the lens of how do we accomplish or provide results to our members and athletes so we create this long-term fruitful relationship.
I think it kind of because like if you look at the programming side and like you're programming for a multitude of people, I think CrossFit does a really good job of setting us up for like, here's, I don't know, how do I put it? It's like, here's the suggested RX.
Yep.
Let's build from there, right? Let's scale down. Heck, if someone is hitting a stimulus or exceeding a stimulus, like if it's a medium workout and they're hitting short domains, like what are you doing to preserve that? And also showing them that it's because they're excellent, right? If it's my favorite story is about Fran. It is awesome to get a sub 3 minute Fran. It is a fantastic accomplishment. I think the second that any athlete does that, it becomes less impressive to try to beat that. To me, unless they think it's the world, then
sub 2, baby.
See, like, and that's the thought, right? But Fran was designed to be a roughly a 3:30 to 4:15 minute workout. What's more impressive to me is if you can rock chest to bars and still maintain like that stimulus, time frame, up. And then understanding that, and then it's like, and then explaining to someone who gets that sub 3 or close to, that 2 minute Fran, is be like, hey, imagine if this is placed in a competition. Then you're going to PR. Then you're going to crush that, and then you're going to crush everybody else.
Yeah.
In your training, like I can almost secure that by showing you how to preserve a stimulus by upping the ante, or like as we put it, scale is like it's almost like you really offended someone when you say the word scale, but it's like scaling is up and down.
Yeah, both ways.
Yeah, and it's that, and like educating people on that fact.
Yeah,
I've done that so often. I feel like because I have so many hours of experience and people do trust me that like if they're going out on a run on Nancy and they're beating the stimulus, their 95-pound bar is no longer a 95-pound bar.
Yeah,
like it'll easily turn on to 105, or, and it doesn't have to be something crazy. It doesn't even have to be a massive jump. It's got to be something though.
Yep.
Or else that person is going to burn out or get injured. It's going to be one of the two because they're overworking, a system to beat their classmates. It's like, well, if you want to go ahead and do the physics on all of it, they still beat their classmates. Like,
yeah,
I mean, their time may be different, or your classmates' time may be different, but
higher output.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know if that like answers the question, but
no, absolutely. So,
but with programming, like, and like kind of running back, like some of the mistakes I've made, some of the things I've seen, is you got to have a really solid balance of novelty and be able to coach mechanics and principle, right? There's 1,000 ways to get to the same place. If you're a gym owner and you want to make more money, you're going to listen. Your target audience is sitting right in front of you, and they're telling you that they hate your program because it's like so repetitive and the same. Pay attention.
Yep.
It's like, because there's 1,000 different ways, and there's probably 100,000 different workouts you can, drum up to get what stimulus you were looking for.
Yep.
So what's kind of fun, what's engaging, yet not going to miss out on the fitness that is provided by constant variation and time domains, and then like getting them overall healthy.
Yeah.
That's kind of my take. And I've made that mistake on several occasions where I've put my wants in a program over the novelty, balance, and need of like everybody else, because I felt that like this series would really drive people forward. And I may be right.
Well, your athletes better than some standardized program that you could outsource, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we love the hashtag refuse to outsource, bring it back in house. Cool. Well, Chaco, one thing that is really unique, thanks for your insight and wisdom on programming.
Yeah.
One thing that's really unique with you is you have, over the past 5-6 years, have run really, really successful events, CrossFit events, specifically competitions. Mm-hmm. Tell us from an event manager standpoint, how are you yoking yourself to the judges, to the athletes, and ensuring that you have repeat customers next year you do the event?
I think is definitely, I think the main thing, and what I've done is like, you were part of my very first one.
Yeah.
And I made mistakes. Like, okay, just a quick silly story. I Steve Harvey'd the podium. If you guys don't know what I'm referring to, it's like I announced winners and passed out prizes, and it was a clear win for Tyler. And it was actually his first CrossFit competition.
My first CrossFit competition.
Just to like get all the pictures of not being where he should have been and getting the, recognition that he meant. And then like the best part is like, hey guys, we got to come back and fix this. But like,
I didn't realize that was your first. That's funny.
That was my very first. And,
it was good times.
Yeah, it was good times. But since then, it's like I've been very aware that mistakes are going to be made.
Yep.
Number one is like all the mistakes can be talked about and can be freaked out about behind the curtain, not in front of the curtain. And then it's like, but take your praises and take your negative feedback just as the same importance. Like if you're all about the praise, then you're going to get depressed when there's like negative feedback. And I think what I've learned just recently is like at a massive scale, some of the tactics I had or some of the principles that I had learned, they don't always cross over. They do with an essence of the spirit of it. And what I'll tell you by that is that, being able to say, like you are the reason why like things did not pan out, and not being satisfied but also being thrilled that there was an accomplishment. I think that that's going to be super important. When there's something like we did with the Southwest Championships, there's no book written on that thing.
Yeah.
We were lucky to have a couple contacts that we were able to like pick some brains with, and they weren't always timely, but they were definitely something that we could try to work with. And trying to maneuver a massive perception, I can understand a little bit more of like the Utah kind of scene, but not everybody is the same. Not even the communities that we with CrossFit are the same in the different states, and so like being more personalized, taking what I've just said over to this whole podcast and now implementing it by making mistakes first is only going to project, 10x, 20x opportunities.
Yeah.
Most people aren't willing to do that and aren't willing to eat enough crow to make make the product better, make things more enlightened, and then and follow through more. And so I more than anything, it's like I had a very basic, simple goal, and it was to show people that it can be done. Not that it was done perfect, not that it's done even great, but it can be done at a scale. And then year 2 is about refinement. Like it can be done better.
Yep.
And better and better, and then the best, right? It's working its way towards the best in its own niche.
Yeah.
And who knows the evolution of this, I think a lot of people, they get comfortable following the trend, which is not a bad idea. It's not a bad presentation either. But I think eventually, if you hear enough people like fighting against the trend, it's like maybe there's a new way of testing fitness. Maybe there's a better way, or it's not a 2-day. Maybe it is a 1-day. Maybe it's a 3-day. Maybe it's a less to do with some certain novelties that are around or what we thought was around.
Well, even from the top, Glassman's always talking about what you're saying is this pursuit of excellence, right?
Yeah.
And to go off of some of the foundation you alluded to with trust in the beginning, when I'm listening to you right now, when you make a mistake, you say, I did this, I did that, I messed up with Tyler on that competition. But when it's a success, it's we. And I think that level of ownership not only adds to the level of trust, but it opens up and breaks down certain barriers of communication. I'm listening to you say, for example, and a good example, I love the symbolism that you had at the Southwest Championships of the bumper plates being the podiums, because that was like kind of the original CrossFit Games, and man, the CrossFit Games has come a long way. And you were kind of outwardly, symbolically saying, look, I hear you guys. I know there were mistakes made. I made them. I'm taking ownership. Year 2 is going to be better. But let's symbolize this with the podium plates being bumper plates. I thought that was cool.
Well, I'm a pastime guy, right? It's like I love the preserved pastimes of baseball. I love, I'm a sports fanatic. So it's like an historian. Like I love like the way that things were. I love the way that things are. And I love the story that's in between. And I think that oftentimes, like when we get so advanced, it's like we forget the roots. And I wanted the Southwest Championships to involve the novice all the way to pro status, like because I wanted the pros to remember where they started, and I want the novice to realize that they're just as important as the pros. And like and again, there's some small details that I don't find the most important, but I'm still going to completely refine.
Yeah.
Because if it's an edge of importance, if it's an edge that we can bring some more motivation to continue to do this, because in my opinion, competition is not like the focus of CrossFit. It's not going to make you the most healthy, but it's going to give you the best opportunity to get back in the gym. You can't get better at it by just sitting on the couch. You can't get better at it by going for a marathon run and training for a sport-specific marathon. No, you've got to get into a box. You've got to get into and understand the process of these workouts, because these are the things that are being tested. there's no better lab than your CrossFit gym. And so like when they did the split with CrossFit, and it was like, hey, because there was some conflict with methodology and all of that, it's like me, I'm in between. I'm 100% bought into the methodology, 100%. Been here for years, but I'm also bought into the mental toughness and fortitude that's afforded by competition, because that's what has driven me. Is being competitive in nature, to want to be my best self, or to want to be the best at a specific niche or whatever it might be, because it's only gonna allow me to grow. That's what I wanted the Southwest Championships was to be like a living, large scaled test subject that proves that. So like I think that if that's how I look at it and so like I'm willing to make mistakes. This is like I made mistakes as a coach. I gave improper cues. I'm sure I offended someone at some point. But if I was not allowed to coach another class because of one performance, or if I beat myself up so much because of the mistakes, and I didn't coach, then I shouldn't have been in the room to begin with. I didn't belong there to begin with. So that's, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about all of that, and getting that feedback and those cues. You got to make mistakes. Like you got to be, and let it fuel you. Like be aware of it. Don't be prideful. It's like take pride in your work, but just don't be prideful. And make those mistakes.
Yeah, what I'm learning with this podcast as it goes on, whether it's a coach-athlete relationship, a gym owner-coach relationship, a head coach with his coach's relationship, or even an event manager with the judges or athletes, it's all about how can we establish this level of trust from the beginning and open communication so that I hear you, you hear me, and we can continue to create this prosperous or fruitful relationship in the long term.
Yeah. And I love that. And like bringing it back to, like judges and stuff. Like I've judged at, the games, and I've judged at regionals, and I've done all that. It's like, if I was waiting for the opportunity to be a perfect judge before I go do those things, I was going to miss my shot every single time. And I've heard that a lot. I think that's like one big criticism. It's like, well, you should guarantee perfection before you actually project. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not that type of person. I'd rather throw something out there and then chase it. And then find out why I couldn't get that. And if the mistakes are not permanently damaging someone else, if the damage is only done to me, I'm happy with that. I'm totally cool with that. Just like in essence with your judging, if judges, no one wants to make the mistake, no one wants to be called out, no one wants to be insane. But guess what? That's part of growth. And that is going to be part of growth. Right? You don't just be born a great judge, or a human. You're born a great human. I'm sorry, no one is. They got to learn. And then they got to act. Right. So,
well, that's the spirit of entrepreneurship. And for our listeners that are gym owners or coaches or even athletes, can't be afraid to try.